Absolutely.
Well, maybe this guy will be the guy that brings it back. Maybe Michael Sweet from Stryper is going to be the guy that decides to start the new rock and music television channel that takes over the world.
How's it going, Michael?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good, man.
Doing great. Doing great.
I'm in hat mode because I've been wearing headphones all day. I'm singing vocals, so I've got bed head. So my apologies.
Wow, very nice. So what are you singing vocals for? What you up to now?
I'm working on a project finally, track and vocals for Sunbomb, which is a Tracy Guns project.
Okay. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm doing the vocals for that. I'm almost finished. Another few days, and then I'll send everything off to the label, and then I'm going to dive into another project. So I'm just, I'm doing lots of recording and projects, man, instead of touring.
Sure. No, absolutely, man. Well, first off, congrats on the new record, Even the Devil Believes. That came out earlier this month. That's the band's 13th now studio release. I mean, did you ever think you'd be here talking about your 13th record, especially when you guys did, split up there in the 90s?
I didn't. I mean, when I left in '92, in my mind, that was it. Mm-hmm. It was over, and I had no intention of going back, at least at that time. So I moved on, and the family moved back east in '95. I wound up pursuing a solo career, between '94 and 2003, roughly. Mm-hmm. And that's when Stryper got back together and did our first tour, which we called the Celebration Tour. And the rest is history, as they say. I mean, we released our first album, which was called Reborn in 2005. And we've been going, full steam ahead ever since. It's been a blur. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, I can only assume, Michael, that, this record that just came out, I mean, it's going to probably go down as one of the most memorable in the band's history. And for reasons other than just how good the music is on it, which many do consider to be the best that you guys have released so far. But for one, it's obviously the first record you've got with new bassist Perry Richardson. It's the first record since, Oz unfortunately has been going through his health problems. And of course, it was recorded during the whole pandemic. So a lot of different factors that went into the making of this record. First off, I just want to ask you, if you don't mind me, how is Oz doing these days? And I mean, how great was it to see him play on this record, considering all he's been through the last couple of years?
Well, it's great. The thing is about Oz is if you were with him, you'd never know he's battling anything, because everything seems completely normal when you're hanging out with him and playing with him and whatnot. So you never know he had any issues going on. But he does, as we all know. He's got a couple of tumors in his brain, and they've gotten a little bigger. He's had them checked twice by MRI, and they've gotten a little bit bigger. So he's, evaluating and going over the next step with family and his wife and whatnot. And it looks like he's soon going to be doing some sort of surgery to deal with the issues, and we just don't know. Obviously that's risky. Nobody knows what lies ahead in terms of that, but we're all hoping and praying for the best. He came in and we had a blast. He came here to the house and we rehearsed and recorded and had a great time, man. And it felt like completely normal, even though we were, obviously he's battling that, and we were battling as we got into the album COVID, and that caused some issues with a number of things. We had to delay the video shoot and photo shoot and whatnot, but we somehow managed to pull it off and get through and make it happen. And not only make it happen, but really wind up recording and producing and releasing, I believe, one of our best albums. And I think the fans are actually agreeing with me. They don't agree with me often, but I think they're agreeing with me on this, which is really awesome.
Awesome, man. Yeah, awesome. Well, also, I mean, as I mentioned, it's also the first release with Perry, who replaces longtime bassist Tim Gaines. And I remember reading a while ago that before, Perry came into the fold, that you were, pretty happy, apprehensive to continue the band without him, as you guys talked about, not going on unless it was going to be just a four of you. So when was the moment you realized that the band could indeed continue to go on without Tim? And if it wasn't Perry come into the fold, do you think you would have done it with someone else?
Well, I mean, I did make that statement, and I was always very proud of the fact that we were the original lineup, and that was really, that's an incredible thing to be able to say and claim in today's world. But I never implied or meant to imply that we wouldn't continue on without Tim. Okay. If I did, I apologize, but I certainly didn't mean to. We've basically had an on-off relationship with Tim over the past 36 years. I think everybody knows that by now. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people don't. But so this time around, we just felt like, okay, that's it. Mm-hmm. And we decided to move forward without him, obviously. And we brought in Perry, who wasn't even on the radar initially. And then once his name was brought up, we thought, wow, he's perfect. And when we met him, that sealed the deal, because we fell in love with him as a person. And, that's the most important part about all this. Sure. Yeah, the musicianship's important, the vocal ability, the all that stuff's important, the hair. You got to have a little hair. But man, the most important thing is relationships.
Right.
If you don't have a good relationship or a good team in place, and you're not getting along or whatever, you're not enjoying each other's company or what have you, then it's a bigger problem. Mm-hmm. And all the other stuff can't fix that problem. So that was really a big deal to us. And that was the thing that we noticed right away, and still to this day do, that Perry's a team player. He's a key player, and he's a joyful guy, walks in the room with a smile, leaves the room with a smile. One of those kind of guys. And it's really nice, very refreshing.
Awesome. Sure. Now, Michael, I want to kind of go back like 15 years, but encompass 15 years all into one question here. Okay. It just seems, for me personally, as somebody that's followed your career, it seems like there's three distinct eras of Stryper. There's the first era, the yellow and black attack type of era, the right. That hair metal of sorts. Right. There's Against the Law, which I know you hate, but there's Against the Law, and then
hate's a strong word, man.
I can. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's my favorite release that you guys have ever done, and I know that probably makes me a bad Stryper fan, but Rock the People Alone is worth the price of admission. So I like that record, even if you don't, as a member of the band. But
I'll tell you, man. First of all, I'm glad you like it. I have nothing against that, and I'm not going to argue with you. I think it's great. But it's really interesting when I hear people like yourself say it's their favorite album, but yet, and I talk about the numbers, and people say, oh, you can't go by the numbers, but you really have to go by the numbers. I say this over and over again, but it's so true. If you didn't go by the numbers in the music world, then you're in big trouble.
Right.
You got to go by the numbers, and labels do, and the whole marketplace does. But that album is our least selling album. Mm-hmm. And that there's something to be said for that. Obviously, the majority doesn't think it's our best album.
Sure.
If they did, the numbers would far exceed To Hell with the Devil and our biggest selling album by an absolute miles, by many miles. And then In God We Trust right behind that. And then we'd probably go down the list, Soldiers Under Command, which is gold. Against the Law is not even gold. And it just, I think what happened with that album is we changed too much.
Right.
It's a really good sounding album. Man, it would have been a hell of a Van Halen album. I think it might have gone platinum with Van Halen. But it's not a Van Halen album. It's a Stryper album, and we're not Van Halen. We're Stryper. We have a very unique sound. Mm-hmm. And we kind of threw that out the window with that album. And rightfully so. We were getting pressure from many different areas to do so, from the label and from ourselves, from the church, from this, from that. And we changed a lot of things. We changed the sound. We changed the look. Yeah. We lost the yellow and black. We changed so many things, man. We grew beard stubble and started, having a tough look on our face. And
you didn't use the logo?
Yeah, well, we did. We changed everything. And we were trying to be something that we're not.
Right.
And I think that was just built up, you know, we were frustrated with everything that was going on. We felt like we had been pushed into a box and kept in a box. So we kind of broke free, and that we rebelled against everything. And that's what you got with Against the Law. Great album. But again, you know, if you took a poll out of, 1,000 people, 995 of those people are probably going to go with To Hell with the Devil or something.
Right. Sure.
Mm.
They would, but that leads to the third era, which I think is from Reborn on, where you're saying, you know, I think that might be the most appropriately titled album ever is Reborn, because you weren't reborn as the same thing. You know, everything that you've done from then till now, much heavier, much more aggressive, but had the spiritual message and the spiritual vibe that made Stryper such an important band to so many people in the first place. You just made it heavier and stronger. And I think that has been a very big reason why I think so many people are way into Stryper now, maybe even more than they were back in the heyday.
Yeah, I mean, it feels that way. But, you know, again, we live in a world where, music isn't, at least hard rock and metal isn't topping the charts like it used to.
Right.
You know, obviously hip hop and pop and country are, but metal and hard rock aren't. And, you know, it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't, obviously in the 80s, we would release an album and it would sell 100,000 units in the first week. You know, now we're very fortunate to sell 10,000 units in the first week, but we're very blessed because there are bands that are selling 1,000 units in the first week right now.
Yeah.
Bands that were platinum selling artists back in the 80s, our peers, bands that we toured with, and they're struggling to sell 1,000 units. So Stryper, I don't know what Stryper is drinking, what's in the water. I don't know what's going on here other than we give glory to God. Everybody knows that. And we work really, really hard.
Sure.
And we're a freight train. You know, we're not the little blue caboose, man. We're like we're a freight train doing 100 miles an hour down the track, and it's going to be real hard to stop that. We're going to keep doing it, and we've got a lot more left in us for sure.
Well, it definitely shows on Even the Devil Believes. I have to ask, just because, you know, I know you're very strong in the business side of it as well as the musical side of it. Outsider looking in, I'm assuming it was a very difficult decision for you guys as a band to release this record this release right now when you can't get out there and tour it. I mean, that's just bread and butter of a rock and a metal band. You put out a record, you tour it. That's how you sell it. That's how you let people know it's there. And that's how you make your living. Was it a very difficult decision for you guys? And did you consider maybe holding it until COVID, subsides, if it's going to?
No. And I think that's a kiss of death for bands that do that.
Okay.
I've seen a few bands say they have an album ready and they're going to wait till, COVID passes and I'm just thinking, wow. Okay. You might be waiting a really long time because we just don't know. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Everybody thinks all musicians think we're going to be touring next year, but we don't know. Or at least at that capacity in big arenas with, 10,000 people coming out per night per show. That may not be a reality. It may not even be a reality in 2022.
Yeah.
So why waste time? We decided to put the album out, and the label agreed, and we're very, very happy that we did. I think that the album, the more important part of it, is not so much about selling albums by going out and touring, which I think nowadays that's neither here nor there. It's not like the 80s. The 80s really sold albums when you tour. Nowadays, But I really believe that, more importantly, this album and its message is so needed, not only by our fans, but all the new fans, people that don't listen to Stryper on a day-to-day basis. They're hearing these songs and they're very moved by these songs and blessed by these songs in these crazy times when we all need hope and inspiration. And this album is giving it to them. So that's really amazing.
Sure.
Mhm.
Now, Michael, you mentioned it, and I'm gonna kind of build off of it a little bit. From a spiritual standpoint, if you've read the Bible, if you know anything about the Bible, and you look at the news, it is a very scary mirror how today's society is mirroring, the biblical end of the world. For you, somebody that has always been very spiritual, and somebody seeing that, how do you react to that? And does it make you change how you forget music for a minute? Does it make you change how you live your life day to day, how you get your spiritual life in order, how you try to get your family and friends' spiritual lives in order?
It does, but it should a lot more.
Okay.
Sadly, I don't know if I should say sadly, but I'm a workaholic. I'm always working. I'm always doing something. So because I'm so busy all the time, I don't really have time to sit and think about the end of the world, although I do believe that we're in end times. I do believe the scriptures. I do believe that, we're right there, man, on the cusp of that. And it's just a matter of time. Now, that's God's time. So,
Right.
when I hear people say, it's happening tomorrow, I got to kind of laugh a little bit at that, because we just don't know. Tomorrow could be 100 years from now. We don't know. There have been people throughout history calling the time and day of the rapture and the end of the world and all that stuff, and we just don't know. But I do feel that we're definitely in some serious times. We're in end times, and it's very important for people to get right with God. And Stryper is a reminder to that. That's why we're here 36 years, almost 37 years later, still going, delivering the same powerful message. It never changes. And all the answers are there in the good book if we just open it up. But we fail to open it because we're too busy. And that includes myself.
Right.
I get too busy. Guys, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to run and get my charger so my phone doesn't die. Okay.
All right.
So I'm literally going to be back in like 30
That's
seconds.
fine.
Sure. Yeah. Take your time, man.
This has been one of them nights, hasn't it?
Yeah. What's live? That's the
exactly.
thing about when you do live stuff.
Real, and that was one of those questions I definitely wanted to get out there, because he is such a spiritual guy that it's hard to look at it. It's hard to look at it as a regular,
any other way.
It's crazy.
Sure. Yeah. All right, he's back.
All right, let me get powered up here.
All right.
This is professional, isn't it? Got to move a little closer over here to this. Yeah, but hey, guys, thanks for having me on, man. I'm honored. And
oh, yeah. Thank you for coming on, Michael.
It's really cool.
So, Mike, I just wanted to ask you something. I'll wait for you.
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
Okay.
All
right, awesome. There's so many things about, the legacy of Stryper, as a band. I mean, just going back to the band's peak in the mid, to late 80s there, where you guys were just super huge. I mean, here it is in the middle of the decade of decadence. It's in the 80s on the Sunset Strip of all places. You guys are blowing up on MTV, you're going platinum right beside all that decadence and debauchery in LA. And you guys really were such an anomaly. I mean, what you guys were doing was really, in fact, I mean, it probably at the time wasn't considered it, but it was rebellious. You were so against the grain at that time, especially in LA around that whole, Sunset Strip. And, who would have ever thought too of being in a Christian rock band, would be considered rebellious, but it was, it still is. And the one thing, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the one thing it showed to me was that, heavy metal fans and rock fans, they want that positive and good message in the music just as much as they want, the fire and brimstone stuff. I mean, like everything else, right? They want to need balance. And I think a band like Stryper, whether, someone agrees with your message or not, you guys definitely contribute to that balance that most, I think, metal and rock fans seek for, which is what, in my opinion, has made you guys so successful over the years. So just in regards to the rock and the metal press, in your opinion, was it tougher for you and the band during the 80s, during that time, as youngsters during the peak of MTV? Or is it tougher today with all the social media madness and the fact that over the years, so many have abandoned the principles and beliefs that you try to encourage and promote through your music?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it was tough back in the day, and it's tough right now.
Right.
And I've been saying a lot lately, publicly and in interviews. Man, that is funny stuff when I hear anybody say, "Oh man, they're not metal. They're in a Christian. They're Christians." It's like metal's about rebellion, and I think to myself, what's more rebellious than four guys, forming a metal band and singing about Jesus Christ before Anthrax hits the stage?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know if there's anything more rebellious. So it is. We are metal because we're more rebellious than any metal band in the history of metal. I don't know if you can find another band that's done what we've done and at that level in terms of going out on the front lines and being booed off the stage and getting bottles thrown at us, and playing a death metal festival and people are burning crosses with Robert's face on them and chanting F Stryper.
Jesus.
And we go out there and rock them. And I mean, that's rebellion. And so when someone says we're not true metal because we're not about rebellion, I really seriously, that's comedy, man. That's hilarious. It really is. But we just keep doing what we're doing, man, and we're here to be a light in the dark. And I know I always say that. It's become cliche, but it's so true. It's so powerful. We live in a dark world, and somebody's got to shine a light in the dark corners of the world. And Stryper is one of the few bands that does that. You got bands out there releasing just smut and garbage and singing about Satan. The Cardi B thing I posted about.
Yeah.
You read the lyrics to that, and then, boy, it's a very dark world, very dark.
Yeah.
And what makes it more interesting and sad is the world seems to eat up. The darker it is, the more they love it. When you have a song like that, Cardi B song that goes to #1 and stays #1 for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, you're thinking, well, who's buying this? Who's making it #1? A lot of people. Because apparently they don't have a problem with those lyrics. And man, you read those lyrics and imagine your granddaughter or your kid reading them or hearing them. It's like, wow, something's wrong.
Yeah, that's garbage. I know.
Don't you think though, Michael, that the main reason for that, just of all time, not just now, but of all times that we've been alive, is the ease. It's easy to do dark things. It's not easy to do enlightened things. It's not easy to hold yourself to a standard. It's much easier to just say, whatever, fuck it, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Give me a bottle of Jack Daniels and some pussy and everything's fine. Nobody, that's so much easier than saying, well, everybody's doing that, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna read, Luke tonight, or I'm gonna practice spirituality. I'm not going to engage in those things. I'm going to take the hard road. And most people are not driven to take the harder road. They're life is about excess and ease to most people.
Yeah. And take that a step further. You're right. Absolutely. 100%. I agree with you. Take it a step further. It's what's popular. It's what sells.
Right.
Raunch and darkness sells. It's just the way it is. It's a weird thing that, you've got all these good people in the world who are fighting for holiness, but yet the smutty stuff, whether it's movies or TV shows or series or albums or whatever, the raunchier stuff, the more popular it is.
Right.
And you just got to scratch your head and think, wow, very interesting. It's very interesting, but it just tells me that I think the people that do demand and want and fight for holiness aren't willing to really get out there and open their door and step outside and really physically fight for it.
Yeah.
They just verbalize it, but they're not really willing to go to bat. But the other side is they're the ones marching in the streets. going out and really physically fighting for it. But, I think we got to really put on the gloves and get out there and duke it out, man, and fight for holiness. And Stryper's been a band that's been doing that from the very beginning, and that's never going to change. We're one of the few, and we get made fun of for it. You name it. We're the brunt of all metal jokes. And it's like, that's fine. If that's what it takes, so be it.
Yeah, sure. I know that. What's also interesting too, Michael, about, the band, not only were you guys, I mean, like you just said, you've been the butt of jokes, you've been scrutinized with a fine tooth comb, just from the rock and metal press over the years, but it's also the fact that, you've played, because you played shows with bands like Rat and a lot of those bands in the 80s, you also got really hammered for doing so within the Christian rock community as well. So, I mean, you were essentially sort of like in a no-win situation. You're dealing with sort of two unmovable sort of forces there, just, of course, extreme elements on each side. And it's one thing, to have to deal with your detractors, to have to deal with all the Christianity, the anti-spirituality people. But it's another when it's the people that are on your side of the aisle, if you will, that are conducting, a large portion of the criticism as well. So, I mean, how do you go about dealing, or especially back then, about dealing with those very same detractors in those Christian rock circles, which must be, like I said, even more frustrating, I would think, considering that you both have the same message, but the criticism, it's focusing more on the way you're going about delivering that message rather than the delivering of the message itself.
Well, we wake up every morning and we do what we do. We don't listen to, we're not a band that, meets with a church or a group of people and says, okay, how should we do this? What should we do? Please tell us, because that's what we want to do. And we'll change everything tomorrow. We don't follow the rules. We're those guys that are always swimming against the tide. Right. And when everyone else is swimming with the tide, we're swimming against the tide. And that's just our calling. We want to follow God's lead, not man's lead. And God's got us on a specific, very unique journey and path. And we've stayed on it. We went our separate ways and broke up for a while and, had our ups and downs. But I mean, for the most part, we've stayed on that path. And here we are in 2020, still going. And with such a powerful message with the music that's changing lives, man. We meet people day in and day out. I was talking earlier, a number of interviews about atheists and Satanists, that we meet all the time that are big Stryper fans. Those seeds are planted, and sometimes they grow, sometimes they don't, but you hope and pray that they do. And man, so many seeds have been planted through this band and this music and this ministry. So it's really powerful. And I don't take it lightly. I take it very serious. And we still have a mission. We're still alive. We're still breathing. We can still perform. We still have the ability. So while we have that, because we may not tomorrow, we're going to keep using it and keep doing it.
Sure. Is that going to be the same message in Sunbomb? Because unless I'm wrong, that's like a black metal thing that you're doing, right?
I don't want to rain on Tracy's parade. Because he has described it as black metal. I'm not getting the black metal thing. Okay. It's not black metal to me. When I hear it's more, some of the songs are more like old school Sabbath.
Okay.
Like, would you consider Sabbath black metal?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's more Sabbathy.
Okay.
Some of the songs, and then some of the songs are just straight up hard rock / metal, up tempo, kind of LA Guns meets Stryper. I mean, but I'm not getting the black metal thing at all. And the lyrics, I didn't write the music for this album. I'm just singing the album, but there were some lyrics submitted to me, and one was about burning witches. And I said to the guys, guys, I'm not going to sing these lyrics. Right. You know who I am. You know what I stand for, and I can't do this. So I'm out. And they wound up sending everything to an in-house producer, Alessandro at Frontiers, and he rewrote all the lyrics, and they're really tailored fit more for who I am. Okay. And my faith, and it's definitely more Michael Sweet. But again, I didn't write the material, but it's a cool album, man. It's I'm getting more and more excited about it as I go, and as I'm singing the songs, and I think people are going to really dig it. It's going to be awesome.
And what is is there even a tentative release date, or is that waiting to see how it all turns out?
Tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to be turning it in the next few weeks.
Okay.
And then they'll have to mix it, and finish up, put some final finishing touches on it. So I would say that would probably happen within the next month.
Okay.
I'm just guessing. I'm thinking out loud here. And then you kind of fast forward 4 to 6 months after that. So you're talking about maybe March. I'm guessing February,
Okay.
March, April of next year.
Okay. Cool. Very cool.
But I don't know. I mean, the label may say, oh, it's going to be sooner than that, or it's going to be July, summer of next year. I don't know.
Right. I hear you. All right. Now, I have to ask you about Spotify, and I don't want to get into a whole thing on it because I know you've said what you think.
Right.
And I get it. And I certainly get it. I personally do not like Spotify as a service myself. And I'll be straight up with you. I am a streaming music guy, 100%. I don't buy physical product. I have YouTube Music or YouTube Premium or whatever it is, and I listen to it solely with YouTube.
Yep.
That being said, as a critic of Spotify, as you are, why do you continue to put your own releases on their platform? Do you not have the ability to sign a new, like, I'm assuming you do more of a not a label deal as much as a distribution type of a thing. Do you not have the ability to say, no, don't put my album on Spotify, or only put 4 songs on Spotify, or some modification of that?
We do have the ability. I mean, we could really if you get in and battle it out over something like that. But we just kind of made a decision as a band, as a company, that it wasn't worth the battle. When we sign a deal like this album with Frontiers, it's a one-off deal. So we fulfilled the one album, and we're free agents right now. And obviously they work with Spotify. They put their stuff up on Spotify. So we're not going to get in a big heated battle. And, in my opinion, it only helps spread the word, spread the news, spread the music. So I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot or the band in the foot and alienate fans that do use Spotify. And a lot of people do. But I'm just not a fan of Spotify for so many reasons. I mean, I can go on and on and on about it. The financial side of things, it's not fair.
Right.
Most people don't, stream full albums. We work our butts off for months to make an album, not a song. And we're an album band, always have been, always will be. And it pains me to work so hard only to see that, people are streaming 2 or 3 or 4 songs from the new album. I miss the old days when people would buy an album and it's as a whole and take it home and smell it and good and bad, listen to the whole thing. I miss that. And the musicians were able to, buy their beans in a can with those funds. Right. Now those days are gone.
Sure. So
we got higher ups getting rich at Spotify who's telling bands how they should do things, and it's just I think it's ridiculous.
No, I agree with that. That Eck guy is a problem. He's worth $2 billion, and I haven't spoken to one band that's ever told me, well, I got this check for $30,000 from Spotify and I've got 10 million plays or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it for you? Is it just Spotify, or is it all of it? Is it YouTube and Apple?
It's Spotify, and I was, maybe he would have a different view. The CEO of Spotify, if we were streaming his money, you know what I mean? Then maybe he'd have a different outlook on things. I feel like when iTunes was really popular, which it isn't really now, it's kind of taken a back seat. Right. Understandably, but when it first came out and people were downloading songs, I had a problem with that because you can literally see that they're downloading 3, 4, 5 songs, the popular songs, the ones that they like, and not downloading the rest. And it just feels like such a slap in the face for 4 guys or 5 guys going to the studio and blood, sweat, and tearing through an album, spending 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and it's sad. It's a bummer. And I've compared it recently to books. Do you buy a book and you just read 4 chapters and you tear them out and throw the rest away? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Do you watch a movie and you just like watch it the first half hour of it and you love it, and then you take the rest out and say, that's all I wanted to see? It doesn't make any sense. But music somehow doesn't get a fair shake in terms of the album itself.
Right. Yeah. We were talking before you came on, Michael, about that music has been devalued to the point of having almost no value to this younger generation, and we were trying to figure out whose fault it was. Is it the kids' fault? Is it the grown-ups' fault? Is it our fault for, not teaching our kids to value it? You obviously have kids, and, and you've watched it change over the course of the years as a person in the business. Oh, yeah. Is there an entity that you can look at and say, that's where the problem is? I mean, do you look at Napster and say that was it? Or do you look at us not making our kids appreciate the music as we did, or a little of all of it?
It's been a domino effect based on technology.
Okay.
Technology has advanced us incredibly, but yet it's also set us back. There's great things about technology and there's really bad things about technology. Obviously, things like we all have our smartphones and we can do whatever we want on our smartphones, but we can also get hacked, and people can steal our identity. It is good and bad, and that's the sucky part about it. And same thing with music. Technology has really helped to destroy the music industry. Revenue that once went to band members and bands themselves. I used to get royalty checks back in the day. I remember clearly 40, 50, 60 grand. And then when we got really popular and we were platinum selling albums, I'd get checks $100,000 plus. And based on just royalties from album sales,
right?
Those are gone. You don't see those anymore. So now we got to get out and tour, do meet and greets, and try to figure out desperately ways to make money so we can just keep performing music and not have to go work at Dunkin' Donuts.
Right. Yeah. Now, obviously the pandemic has you not outperforming. I'm sure you see the way people are trying to do it, whether it's these concerts at home or, I've seen like I saw Eric Martin is actually playing here in Cleveland on Friday in some kind of weird, there's like 30 segments of seats and there's 4 people allowed in each segment and all this other, it's some weird thing. Any of that of any interest to you guys, or is that just not something that you can do?
No, not at all. Nope. No, and I'll say it a million more times. No, God bless these guys that are doing it, but no. we kind of do our own thing, man. We were approached by a number of people to do streaming shows, and we said no,
right?
Because most of the time they're not done well. It's a very awkward feel to it. Very awkward. Yeah, you get to see your band and you get to hear music, and that's great. That's awesome. But it's very awkward, and with everything that's going on, the capacities are cut, by half or 2/3. The way things are done and set up, it's just very strange. It's not how live music should be.
Right.
So what we did, we kind of made our own rules, and we flew the guys out and we rehearsed and we went into the studio and we recorded 2 live albums from start to finish. The new album and To Hell with the Devil. And we're going to be releasing them on our own, not with any other entity. And we're going to do on demand, like a rental and a purchase. And eventually we'll release those, and we're going to make a series out of it and hit every album. And that's going to be our way of performing live over the next, 6, 7, 8 months.
Okay. Which is for anybody that's a hardcore fan of Stryper, that's the perfect thing, because it's a collectible. you know, it's a collectible that they can get, and it keeps them engaged with the band.
Exactly. And it's live. I mean, we're in the studio. It's kind of like if you've seen Live at Daryl's house.
Yeah. It's like that.
It's
yeah.
very
Okay.
similar to that. We're in the studio where we record, really cool vibe. We're all in the room and we're rocking, and it's live, but it's done. It's recorded just like an album. Everything's isolated. Everything's mic'd, separated, and it sounds like an album, and it looks amazing. It sounds amazing. It's not like a live feed that's cutting in and out, and you know, it's a very cool way of doing it, and I'm glad that we did. We were hesitant. We thought, well, can we do this? We were able to do it, and we're going to keep doing it, and we're really excited for people to see it.
Very cool. There's no parts in it where the singer walks away to plug his phone in.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm glad you said it, but I'm not going to say it. But I mean, I've watched many of these live streams, and oh my gosh, I feel bad sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, you know.
Well, that's why you're a pro, and a lot of these guys are not. That's why you've been able to maintain for almost 40 years in the business, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, and some of them get it right, and I've seen some that were really cool too, but I've seen many that weren't, and you know, we just didn't want to go down that path where it was done unprofessionally, and we wanted to keep it at a really high level, and Stryper really tries hard to do that with everything we do.
Right. Exactly. Very good, man. Awesome. Well, Michael, the new album is called Even the Devil Believes. It is yet another fantastic metal album from the last 15 years anyway of great albums. And from what Michael says, he even believes in the album before that just not as much as I do. So Michael, where should people go online to keep up with the band and buy this thing and not just stream it for free?
Well, they can go obviously and buy it at Stryper.com. They can buy it at Amazon.com. Any place that sells music will have the album. Better have the album. Right. And then of course you can get it at iTunes and stream it, Spotify, and you know, it's out there, ready and available for everyone anywhere. And then YouTube, the video's been doing really great. We're really pleased. The numbers and the views, and there seems to be a real great buzz going off of this album, and it seems to have stepped things up. You know, we're kind of trying to step things up a level with each album, and this one seems to have done that.
It's definitely very good, man. Yeah. Michael, man, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, guys. My pleasure. Sorry for the unprofessionalism of not having my charger. And, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. God bless you, and hopefully we'll see you out on the road soon, okay?
All right, we'll see you later.
Take care, Mike. Take care, buddy.
See you later.
Take care. Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.